Dedenne is coming soon to Pokemon Go. It's going to be part of the Festival of Lights event running from November 5th to the 14th. If you want more information on the Festival of Lights event in Pokemon Go, and of course the Shadow event that's coming with it, link up above and in the description. This video, however, is going to be focusing on Dedenne in the Great League meta. It's actually quite good there, and I'll also be talking about Dedenne's Great League PvP IVs. Not exactly a PvP IV deep dive, but enough to get your feet wet with Dedenne IVs. Before we get into the numbers here, I just wanted to highlight that Dedenne is actually the Pokemon of the year. Every year, I guess this Japanese website hosts a Pokemon of the year voting event, and for 2021, Dedenne won. It is Pokemon of the year, and I mean, look at this guy. He's so cute back there. No wonder he won Pokemon of the Year. Basically, Dedenne is all that fat Pikachu energy and love that we need in the world that Game Freak ripped from us by force-feeding us nothing but Diet Pikachu. Well, if you want that fat Pikachu energy, we got Dedenne. And with that hype out of the way, let's talk about Dedenne in Pokemon Go. Starting out with the basics, Dedenne here is an electric fairy type Pokemon. It is almost the only Pokemon that has this dual typing. The legendary Pokemon Tapu Koko also shares this electric fairy typing. So if you think about it, Dedenne is like a pseudo-legendary of sorts. I mean, it's got that legendary typing going on. Am I right? As far as the stats are concerned, it has pretty mid-range stats all around with an overall stat product of about 1800 range in the Great League. So it's not exactly a tanky Pokemon, but it's not glassy either. I'd say Dedenne overall is a little bit on the thicker side compared to most things in Great League PvP. When it comes to the move pool, we have Thundershock, Discharge, and Play Rough. For a third charge move, we got nothing. Originally, they're going to give Dedenne Parabolic Charge. It was in the Game Master for the longest time. Parabolic Charge is a healing move in the main series games, and I guess Pokemon Go doesn't know exactly what they want to do with healing moves just yet, so they nixed it from Dedenne's moveset. We may see it in the future, maybe we won't, but Thundershock, Discharge, and Play Rough are pretty good for an electric fairy type Pokemon. You got that rapid energy gains, you got the good damage and low energy cost, and then you've got the big fairy type attack. So Dedenne is sitting pretty good as far as the moveset department is concerned. Moving on, when it comes to the open Great League meta in this even one shield scenario, Dedenne is looking pretty good. 30 wins to 31 losses, so not exactly a standout all-star type option in the Great League, but definitely holds its own when you consider the numbers here. And I think what makes Dedenne even more impressive is when you consider it at a shield disadvantage. So if you have a situation where Dedenne has one shield and the opponent has two shields, Dedenne is able to spank the bananas out of Mandibuzz, Pelipper, Umbreon, Scrafty, Azumarill, and Skarmory. Now this is Ice Beam Play Rough Azumarill, so if they land the Hydro Pump, then Azumarill can overcome you. But is Azumarill really going to land the Hydro Pump? If you're able to call that and shield it, or if it's not able to bait you, then yeah, Dedenne can very easily beat all three different iterations of Azumarill. So this is a pretty powerful showing for Dedenne here. And what's even goofier is if you go for the 0-2 shield scenario, we actually beat Mandibuzz. So Mandibuzz effectively has no hope whatsoever against Dedenne. So that's pretty impressive. Now this all looks pretty great, but it gets a little bit worse when you look at things on the other side. When Dedenne has one shield, the opponent has no shields, so you have the shield advantage. Dedenne still can't overcome, top meta poison ground type threats. We got Galar Stunfisk here, Diggersby, Nidoqueen, Shadow Nidoqueen, Venusaur, Wishcash, Trevenant, Ferrothorn, Stunfisk, like the list kind of goes on. Dedenne gets hard-walled by a lot of Pokemon. I mean, fairy type attacks, you got steel, you got poison. Electric type attacks, you got grass type Pokemon, you got ground type Pokemon. So Dedenne definitely has its work cut out for it. And for this reason, I feel like Dedenne functions a lot better in cup formats. When it comes to the Open Great League, Dedenne is definitely going to be more of a spice pick. If you hit the right opponent in the right way, then they're going to get completely clowned by Dedenne. But there are too many big meta threats for Dedenne to be like a household name. Dedenne may be a fairy type, but it ain't no Azumarill when it comes to Great League PvP. However, if it does find itself in the right type of cup format, I think Dedenne can put in tons of work and easily be one of the top most meta threats in the right cup format. I mean, take a look at Pachirisu. Pachirisu, mono electric type Pokemon, very similar to Dedenne, and it can put in tons of work in limited formats. Dedenne is a very similar Pokemon to that, and also has fairy type attacks and a fairy subtyping to work with, so I think there is a lot of potential for Dedenne. And if there is a limited format where there's fairy type Pokemon allowed, I mean, Azumarill does not want to deal with Dedenne, so that's just one slice of potential for Dedenne to stand out in a pretty big way in limited formats. Now, when it comes to Dedenne's PvP IVs, just to let you guys know once again, this is not a PvP IV deep dive, just a light splash at Dedenne's PvP IVs. What looks to be important on the surface level here is having at least a 133 HP stat, which is fairly achievable. That does give you consistency against Toxicroak and consistency against Vigoroth. So Pokemon that you can potentially beat, can potentially lose to. They got ground type attacks, so just having that extra HP can allow you to secure those KOs. Dedenne can hit up to 135 HP, so getting into that 133, 134 range shouldn't be too difficult for most Dedenne PvP IVs. After the HP, the next important thing is going to be the defense. Having at least 109 defense is a good idea for Dedenne to help avoid most, opposition type breakpoints against Dedenne there. If you are going to thrift on Dedenne's defense, then I wouldn't go much lower than 108. As long as you're above 108, your Dedenne should be coasting good. What's more important than the defense, though, is making sure you have at least that 133 HP. If you want to shoot for an even higher defense stat, you need a little bit of a tiebreaker. 109.86 stands out to me. You get that defense breakpoint against even more Deoxys defense forms, and you get it against most Scrafty as well. Scrafty is a Pokemon that you're supposed to dominate, and avoiding a counter breakpoint can allow you to make sure that you're securing that KO, that powerful victory against the Scrafty there. And then when it comes to the attack stat, there is a breakpoint against Lapras and Pidgeot. I think most Dedenne are going to be hitting the Lapras breakpoint anyways, especially when you consider bad IV Laprases, so not too much to be concerned about there. And then Pidgeot is a little bit too high for a lot of the chonkier Dedennes to get to, but if you do have, only a handful of Dedennes, and Dedenne is not really spawning too much anymore, then going for that attack stat might be helpful. Overall, though, I'd say the priority is make the HP check, try to get 109 defense, maybe even higher, and then the attack can be a little bit of a tiebreaker after those two conditions are met. Definitely not nearly as important as the HP and the defense for Dedenne, though. Well, you guys want the canned IVs for Dedenne? You want to know which spreads hit these splits? There's about 120 of them. Yeah, and if you're going for just the HP or the defense alone, then there's hundreds of them. So yeah, if you want to check out what the true stats are of your Dedenne that you capture, you can plug them into pvpoke.com or the PvP IV rank checker or pvpivs.com. All three linked in the description, of course. Then you can check out to see if you've got the splits that hit the 133 HP and the big defense there. If you want a visual cue, if your Dedenne has less than a 4 attack IV, then your potential for hitting the defense and the HP much higher than those that have a higher attack IV than that. But there's like hundreds of them, so yeah, I'm not making that table. And then to add on top of this, Dedenne is a Pokemon that's mostly going to stand out in cup formats, so if all you got is like cloudy weather and rain, I wouldn't sweat too hard on getting the good Dedenne IV spreads. At any rate, that's all I gotta say about Dedenne in Great League PvP. Looking like an interesting spice pick here, and if the cup format hits just right, Dedenne could go straight to the moon there. So Dedenne, very powerful. As always, if you have questions on this content, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoy this kind of content, you want to see more like it, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description. By the way, quick thing I forgot to mention in the video, but going through a lot of Dedenne's matchups, it's only like 5 or 10 energy away from securing some critical KOs. And I feel like if Dedenne were to get a decent charge move that was just 5 or 10 energy cheaper than Discharge, then that could be a lot for Dedenne in Open Great League PvP and even more in the cup formats as well. So a route to that could be the Parabolic Charge. if it gets that in the future and ends up being good. Nuzzle is another opportunity for Dedenne to pull ahead. It's got a 100% paralysis chance in the main series games, so it could be an interesting debuffing move for Dedenne to have. I guess we'll have to see what happens when Dedenne releases, and keep our fingers crossed for Season 10 of GBL. Big updates for Dedenne. I mean, it is Pokemon of the year, so hopefully it gets something, right?